Aloha, y'all. It is Sunday, ruled by the sun, hence the name Sunday. The 2nd of January, winter, cold winter, where I am in the northern hemisphere in Colorado. The sun is in Capricorn. The moon is almost conjunct the sun. Oh, it is conjunct the sun by 2 degrees in Capricorn. Mercury's in Aquarius now. Not surprising now that I'm thinking about it. Okay. Venus is in retrograde in Capricorn. Mars is in Sagittarius. Jupiter's in Pisces, 0 degrees. Saturn is in Aquarius, 12 degrees. Uranus is retrograde in Taurus. Neptune's in Pisces. Pluto's in Capricorn. And the North Node is in Gemini. So let's go ahead and pull some cards. I have watched it before, but I got to watch it again last night with my mom and stepdad. Fantastic Fungi, a Paul Stamets basically documentary on Netflix. It's only an hour and 20 minutes. Well worth your viewership. Thank me later kind of thing. Ironic on this bottom card is magic mushrooms. But it's fungus, and it talks about fungus and mycelia. So I'm going to cut this up. Just a little sink there. I won't use that as the card. But let's see what wants to pop. All right, so we got the moon card. It is a new moon coming up. And the sun and the moon are conjunct in Capricorn. There's a whole lot of Capricorn energy right now. And with Mercury and Aquarius and Saturn in Aquarius, those are still co-ruled by Saturn. So a whole lot of Saturnian energy. On just, it's not Saturday, but it's like a lot of Saturnian energy. So anyway, the moon, a major arcana card. Let's go ahead and read what it's all about. The moon is as follows. The moon is dark. The dark reflects and distorts. Face your fears. Embrace uncertainty. That's really the theme of life these days. With Uranus and Taurus, it's about embracing uncertainty and change. North Node and Gemini. Pay attention to what you see in your dreams. Let your subconscious guide you. There's many ways to get to the subconscious. Meditation, psychedelics, tools like this. This is basically tapping our subconscious. That's what the whole point of it is. The moon. I perceive the truth through the inner veil and its reflection. The moon signifies journeying within to the pool of inner wisdom the subconscious inhabits. The moon is the light that shines in the darkness, and her waxing and waning mirror the movements and tides of our emotions. Seen here, she is the woman in the moon, shining her gentle light over the waters below. The moon is in synchronous rotation with the earth. This means the same side is always facing the earth, and the gravitational pull the moon exerts creates the two bulges on the earth which move around the oceans as the earth rotates, causing the familiar high and low tides. Women's menstruation cycles often harmonize with the cycles of the moon, and in the times of goddess worship more than 5,000 years ago, women would often bleed together on the new moon, which is basically what it is right now, new moon, in Capricorn. New moon, considered an auspicious, deeply creative and spiritual period of release. Then ovulation occurred at the height of their creative release during the full moon. Living life can be a very lonely path at times, especially when we are transitioning from the old to the new. The path unknown before us can be laden with projected fears and fantasies of loss and failure. But the moon card suggests to look a little deeper and face your fears. It is time to retreat and reflect, attentive to the synchronicities and symbolic wisdom in the outer world, reflecting in the mirror of the inner world. Allow insights and guidance to surface in your dreams and keep your dream diary ready. Remember, we can feel our most desperate or despondent in the darkness, given to the flights of the imagination, twisted fears and fantasies. As mistress of illusion, the dreaming self, she holds both keys and spells. Deep forgotten memories may be disturbing your equilibrium, past traumas resurfacing once again to experience the light of consciousness, the healing spiral. You thought you were resolved, but up it comes again to be purified. Journey within, with the power of guided visualizations, and like the 3 ethereal water bearers in this card, receive her wisdom. Success in any venture always carries fear, as it does hope, the two sides of the same coin. Darkness cannot exist without light, light without dark. Embrace your fear. The moon, dark reflecting and distorting, facing your fears, embracing uncertainty, paying attention to what your dreams say, letting your subconscious guide you, right? So I think, especially that it's a new moon in Capricorn with all this Capricorn energy, Sun, Moon, Venus retrograde, and Pluto, all in Capricorn, with Saturn in Aquarius, which is all, and Mercury in Aquarius, both co-ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Aquarius is. I think we're really peeling off the layer of a lot of systemic karma, inherited perspectives, and we need to be soft with ourselves like the moon and be willing to play with our subconscious with these things, not just going into the exoteric, I know what's going on and this is how it goes, more esoteric, kind of being like, I don't know, the spirit of wisdom will flow like the waters and inspire me from within. There's a time and a place for both. I think it's funny that the moon card's coming up because it's reminding us to be soft and intuitive given all this harsh Capricorn energy. Mercury in Aquarius wants to get all the facts and see the whole big picture. Sun in Capricorn is like, and Moon in Capricorn is like, get it right. This is about perfection and achievement. Venus in retrograde in Capricorn is like, what in the world are you doing wrong? How can you fix it? Pluto in Capricorn is what in the world needs to die and transform. So there's a lot of heavy energy, a lot of intense energy right now. And with the moon card coming up, I think it's telling us to relax, flow, know that there's a yin and yang purpose behind everything, even though sometimes that doesn't feel good. The moon is all about feelings and intuition, right? So let your feelings guide you, because just having all the facts doesn't necessarily work right now, because the energy is all about fact finding, bottom lining, cut it if it doesn't work kind of thing, which is fine. But if you do it with no emotionality, no intuition, it's going to be way more severe and way more toxic potentially than with a balanced approach. So let's go ahead and get a clarifying card. We've got wisdom. This guy's at night too. It's not totally similar to this, but it's like the wisdom of what? The night, the darkness, the hidden things, subconscious, right? So, and with Mercury now in Aquarius, this is like, how can you be like the hacker of reality? Like, how can you be your own Morpheus and escape the Matrix? All that kind of stuff. So number 10 in this deck is wisdom. So let's see what it says. Knowledge, these are keywords. Knowledge, understanding, awareness, very North Node of Gemini, Mercury in Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius. Self-knowledge, illumination, introspection, right? The moon, introspection, hidden things. Withdraw, insight, and common sense. Key phrases, you are here to become wise. And some people think that, only doing righteous things gets you wise. And then Oscar Wilde said something like, the palace to wisdom is paved by the road of excess and failure and all that kind of stuff. So, but we're here to become, and we're expanding. Just as the universe is expanding, we are expanding. We are becoming wiser. Knowledge does not make you wise. Wisdom is learning from one's mistakes. Apply knowledge, logic, and common sense. Very Capricorn. It's like, keep it real. Sun and Moon in Capricorn. Learn from more than just books. Seek out your elders. It's time to break a cycle. Wisdom is understanding. Wisdom is loving the whole, light and dark. You have shadow and light in you. You have good and bad. You have demons and angels on your shoulders. Wisdom is loving the whole. Know and love your shadow. You have unlimited potential, and the road ahead leads to many destinations. Meaning, the second of the 8 primary reasons for being in this deck, that's what they're calling it, I guess, is to acquire wisdom. While a person can have great knowledge, North Node in Gemini, Mercury in Aquarius, if they have no understanding, that knowledge will not make them wise. Capricorn, Sun, and Moon. We need to apply in a not severe is a strong word, but in a serious and intentioned way, knowledge to learn from the past, to learn from our mistakes. While a person can have great knowledge, if they have no understanding, that knowledge will not make them wise. An individual may possess a great capability to retain facts and information, but lack the ability to truly process what they've learned. And that's the thing, as a Sun and Moon Gemini 11, Sun and Moon Gemini myself with Gemini and Chiron, I struggle with. It's like, I know a whole lot about a lot, but I don't know anything fully. Jack of all trades, kind of master of none. But with my North Node in Taurus going to be activated soon, it's like, I should probably master a thing or two. An individual may possess a great capability to retain facts and information, but lack the ability to truly process what they've learned. Some say wisdom cannot be learned from a book. It is something that is learned through experience. That's why hearing about, oh, I heard about this tale of this explorer, or this person gave me this drug trip report, or, oh, if you fast for 40 days, this is what happens. It's like, that's fine. It's hearsay. It's knowledge, it's data until you have walked that path and gone into your own cave of experience. That's wisdom. Wisdom stems from learning from one's successes and mistakes, dark and light, polarity, North Node and Gemini, one's trials and adventures, one's gains and losses. Wisdom is born of an awareness and a discernment that allows you to judge, and that judgmentalism is very Capricornic, Moon and Sun, to judge the best course of action. How do you achieve? What's the best way? Capricorn, Sun and Moon, and Venus in retrograde and Pluto. In most situations, wisdom is the application of knowledge, logic, and common sense, the synthesis of many things. Wisdom is, wisdom is the synthesis of external information acquired via personal experience and learning, right? Until you feel it intimately in your bones emotionally, at an emotional etheric level. It's not just, third eye gnosis of the mind, when you start actually, feeling the trepidation of how it feels to go into the Jedi cave and confront your shadow, it's all theory. It comes from using logic, emotion, and intuition to analyze and understand, to discern the truth, to grow in awareness, and then use that knowledge to find our place and purpose within the universe and to live a good and productive life. So I think we're being called, there's deep wisdom in the soft and the unspoken, in the hidden things. Trust me, watch Fantastic Fungi. It shows that this is a whole world that literally sustains and keeps this world going that we don't even tend to think about. It's in the secret hidden places. The fungal networks. It's billions of years old. We stem off from them. I don't even need to get into it, but it's crazy. And I think if you want to get into it even deeper, there's levels of yourself that you have to become intimate with emotionally that lead to wisdom, right? If you never examine yourself, if you don't know thyself that level intuitively and kind of subconsciously, you're not going to hit the same pockets of wisdom that you could. In some abstract sense, it's all good, all paths lead to Rome or whatever, but these are advice, these are aggregors of advice that we can give and think upon. So let me get a Galactic Heritage card. For example, I don't even understand if aliens are real. I've never experienced them or not, but I still use Galactic Heritage stuff. Funny, this is coming out. So yeah, we can play with archetypes without having to say, I believe fully. No one believes anything fully. And even people that believe the same stuff don't agree fully. So we need to get into our feels. We need to look at the dark side of the moon. We need to go into the cave of wonder, like Aladdin style, and find the treasures of what? Wisdom. But we tend to be very stubborn, either through fear or laziness. And, I have everything the way I want it to be. So we tend not to do these things. We tend to say, everything's fine, I'll just deal with it later, or I'll deal with it however. And we need to be kind of soft and intuitive and not just stubborn. And with all this Capricorn energy, it's very stubborn. It's like, this is the way. This is the way. There's no other way. South Node in Sagittarius. This is the truth. North Node of Gemini is saying, who knows? Let's play with options and ideas. Everybody's relatively true, open air. North Node of Gemini, destiny, karma, going that way. South Node is saying, there's only one way to heaven. I'm a Christian, and I would ascribe to that theory in some sense, but I wouldn't even project it onto others because that's too stern. It's too old and rooted in tradition. America's great. We the people. That Constitution's amazing, but what it is now, I wouldn't defend. So, anyway, 40, Pleiades, stubbornness, past timeline. This message relates to having a fixed idea of how things should be and trying to force that reality to fit the picture. This was a strong trait in the Pleiadian culture, which created many problems for their civilization. Some of us still carry this habitual pattern. Take a look at the situation you want changed. Be honest and see if you're trying to force a reality that doesn't exist in the now. Be truthful. In order to make a change, we first must fully accept and relax with the situation as it is, right? We need to reflect the light as it is. That doesn't mean, right? We need to look at things as they are. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The hidden, the things we don't tend to want to talk about or think about, the taboos. We can actually find meaning and truth and growth in these places. So it says, be truthful. In order to make a change, we must first fully accept and relax what the situation is as it is, and then only then will things change in a natural way. When we fight and resist and force with our wills at a certain level, it's just egotism and howling at the moon or whatever, and it's not helpful. But there's lessons even in that. So Joffrey has lessons, being a stubborn prick of a king in Game of Thrones, just as much as Ned Stark, who's this honorable, selfless, chivalrous dude. They have, they're coming at the Tao differently, but they're all learning lessons nonetheless. This card represents one of the most painful lessons of the Pleiadians from this era. When the species was young, they were very idealistic, much like teenagers today. They had a view of how reality should be, and they sought to force this vision on others. This is often a challenge of a new species when they are young. Earth humans have this trait as well. During the dark times of Orion, the Orion people were in a lot of pain. The young Pleiadian species felt it was their duty to boldly come into the Orion system and force the Empire to free its people, right? They weren't really addressing like the emotional needs. They were kind of forcing their opinion on things, and this whole story shows they had to do a little soul searching and learn from it. So basically the Pleiadians are like this playful, joyous group, and the Orions are like serious, military miners, or however you want to look at that, kind of like the Empire in Star Wars. And the Pleiadians are more like Ewoks or something like that. And they're like, we're going to help you. We're going to make you feel better. These Pleiadians were blind to the fact that they were creating karma for themselves and meddling in a situation that was not theirs to fix. And with the Sun and Moon in Capricorn, Saturn, Capricorn energy is all about karma and time and right timing and wrong timing. You know, the American Revolution might not have happened if the timing was off, or, you know, just lots of levels of things. Watch that Fantastic Fungi. Timing is everything. And nature is in its own time. At some level, humans are in a very different time than fruit flies and galaxies and geological time. All real things, all very relatively different. So the Pleiadians kind of went there, and they were blind to the fact that they were creating karma by trying to fix other people's problems for them through hyper-positivism, basically. In response, the Orions destroyed a planet in the Pleiadian system known to be one of the most beautiful. So, you know, just like the moon looks all ravaged and stuff, they destroyed a planet in this story because they weren't being respected subconsciously and emotionally. There was no wisdom in the approach of the Pleiadians in that instance. The Pleiadians were stunned and traumatized, but it was the experience they needed to grow. So sometimes the bad things are good for you. I know that's not soup people want to drink on the daily, but it's like suffering, you know, no mud, no lotus. I wrote a song called that. Suffering leads to glory, but you don't want to look at suffering as glory. It's a yin-yang thing. The Pleiadians were stunned and traumatized, but it was the experience they needed to grow up as a species and drop their arrogance. They left the planet, and that could be a shadow of the Capricorn. It's like, I know what's true. I know what's right. I'm going in this direction. And it's like, you think your kingdom, you know, Hitler thought he was the shit, and he clearly did a two-front war and fell apart. He didn't use his intuition and wisdom. I'm not even defending Hitler, but there was probably better ways he could have gone about it, but he was very Capricornic about it. Like, this is the way we're going to bolt forward and not think about it and just act. And that could cause problems. They left, but the problems themselves are solutions. Ironically, they're lessons. Everything's a school. North Node and Gemini. Just everything's a school. Never forget. They left the planet a lifeless shell floating in space, just like the moon, to always remind them of their own ignorance. The Pleiadians did. They're like, we got to remember that we had a shadow that we weren't addressing properly through our stubbornness. If this card comes up in your reading, look at the surrounding cards. It may be about a connection that you have to this time in Pleiadian history, or it may simply be a warning about becoming attached to your beliefs. I do this all the time, about how things should be in reality. Like, oh my gosh, everybody should be my political party, or everybody should be my sexual orientation, or everybody should hear this music and feel the same things. That's just not how it works. True wisdom is knowing that everybody is internalizing things very differently. You know, the sun shines on all of us equally, but not everything responds the same. Some things are nocturnal, some things are diurnal in the day. Some plants need a lot of light, some plants need very little light, but the sun is shining on us nonetheless. So life happens, but not all of us are responding equally. That's just how it is. That's diversity within multiplicity, ultimately within unity. It may be about connecting to that past time in Pleiadian times, or it may simply be a warning about becoming attached to your beliefs about how things should be in reality and a stubborn drive to change them according to what you feel is right. So when you hear about witches trying to put a hex on Trump or whatever, maybe there's some beautiful magic in that, some moon magic, these witches doing some weird shit and causing things. But at the same time, what's the wisdom if they understand namaste at some level? They're like, oh, I'm hexing myself in some abstract way. Are they just being stubborn in their political persuasion to hate what they don't understand? And the same could be said of conservatives towards the Clintons or whatever, right? It doesn't really matter about the persuasion. I'm just using examples. So we got to be careful not to be stubborn. And with all this Capricorn energy, that's the shadow we're dealing with, which is just like rigid, severe, tenacious stubbornness, like hardness. Let's get an animal oracle card. I had said this yesterday, but I think it cut it off. I've had a lot of these people on the podcast. Check it out, TEAMrabbithole podcast. We got loyalty, which is a good aspect, I guess you could say, of the Capricorn situation, where it's like I'm gonna work this all the way to the end. You know, the negative polarization would be like Sisyphus. Oh, it's, you know, I'm always pushing up this rock. And look, there's a full moon in this picture. We got the moon card. So here we go. Number 29 is the red-crowned crane. It's about loyalty. The time has come to re-examine your loyalties. Who do you resonate with? Why? You want to love your enemies, but you don't want to just hang out with people you disagree with all the time. There's lessons there. I'm having to learn patience and how to communicate better. I'm not doing a very good job of it, living with people that are very politically different or very spiritually different than me, but we're all a family and we're all, you know, love and all that stuff. Even having a fiance where she disagrees very deeply about psychedelics. I don't smoke now, but psychedelics to me are a tool and positive and good, and that were designed for them, and she doesn't know them. She hasn't done them, tripped at least. But she has she's a Virgo, Jupiter, Sun conjunct. Not surprising here. She has a very purist way of looking at things. She thinks it's a shortcut. right? And even Alan Watts is like, if you get the message, hang up the phone, like that kind of thing. So I have to be responsible. But what I'm saying is like, we're all one tribe. We're all one tapestry. And then these sections relate to each other more than maybe these, but they're still relative. And then these mirror. So it's like Africa is not that different than America, or South America than Europe. But the particulars might represent themselves differently, clearly. So, loyalty. The time has come to re-examine your loyalties. Are you able to be trusted? Keep your word if you give it. Take relationships slowly. Slow and steady wins the race. The tortoise and the hare. The hare is like Gemini, Sagittarius, Aries energy. Is like go, 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 go. Capricorn would be the tortoise. Slow and steady. Time, karma. You reap what you sow. Take your time. Perfect it. So it says, take relationships slowly and make sure to build strong connections. What promises have you made that you must keep? Mythos. From the ancient Japanese story of Tsuru no Ongaeshi, pardon my bad Japanese, on a very cold, snowy day in winter, an elderly man, and it's a very cold day in winter here in Colorado and snowy, an elderly man, which is very Capricorn Sun and Moon, Father Time, an elderly man was going to town. He had firewood to sell and was walking slowly with a large load upon his back, very much like Zoso, the Led Zeppelin album, if you know. As he walked, he found a crane that was caught up in a hunter's trap. He felt he had to help the beautiful bird and released it from the trap. That night, it was a blizzard, so that was an intuition, right? He could have been stubborn, right? But he's like, I feel a sense that there's some wisdom to come out of this exchange with this animal. He wasn't just like, it's just a fucking bird, good luck with that. He participated, right? He was loyal to the bird's livelihood and goodness. And that's what we all should be doing unto others what we would want to have unto us, ultimately. So he helped the beautiful bird and helped release it from the trap. That night there was a blizzard, and the old man and his wife were settled in with a meager meal and a small fire when there was a knock at the door. There stood a beautiful girl dressed in white. I'm sorry, dear father, to disturb you, but I am an orphan traveling through this area to meet my new relatives, and I'm lost. Would you mind if I took shelter from this storm? She said. The elderly couple accepted her into their home and allowed her to stay the night, sharing what little they had. The next morning, the snow had not let up, so the girl stayed in the house, in return for their hospitality, cleaning the house and looking after the old couple. This has to do with duty, responsibility, aged people, very Capricornic themes. Winter, snow, hardship, meager fire, meager meals. Kind of to the bone. Saturn rules the bones. It's very rigid and piecemeal. So one day, as she went in the kitchen cooking, the girl asked whether she could stay with them as their daughter rather than go off to their relatives she had never met. The couple readily agreed and were very happy to have such a daughter. Upon their acceptance, the girl asked if they would buy her some yarn, as she wanted to weave some cloth for them. They bought the yarn, and as they handed it to her, the young girl said in a serious way, I will be working on this cloth for a few days, but I should not be disturbed. Promise me you will not come into the room when I leave. They promised, and the girl worked in the room for 3 days without coming out. Very loose, 3 days in the grave, Jesus kind of stuff, right? The work taking time, and don't disturb it. When the door opened again, she showed the couple the most wondrous fabric the couple had ever seen. Please, and she used technology to create things, Saturn and Mercury and Aquarius. She's an engineer of this kind of loom process. Please sell it in the village, she requested. It will get a good price for us. Very Capricorn, like trade for value and get what's worth it. So they did that. With the money, and the devil card Capricorn is about the material world, money, pentacles. With the money they got from the cloth, also another material thing. These aren't like spiritual truths. They're material things that are creating spiritual atmospheres. With the money they got from the cloth, the couple were able to buy more yarn and more colors, and their daughter again wove a truly magical cloth made with much care. This went on for a short time, with the couple being quite well off. North Node and Gemini, they were responding off of each other playfully and well. Using each other's unique differences for the group's advantage. They weren't being stubborn. She wasn't like, well, I have to go visit my family and I'm going to, do my own thing. Or, oh, bird, I'm going to leave you alone. She was willing to help and be loyal to their cause. The animal, the red-crowned crane, is a very rare and elegant bird of East Asia. It's migratory and is found in Japan, Korea, Russia, Mongolia, and China. The red patch on his head appears during mating season. The red-crowned crane is almost a mythological bird to the Japanese, such as its sacredness, and it is widely and formally depicted in art and especially paintings and ink drawings. Once a mate is found, the pairs bond through graceful dances and haunting, fluting calls, and these highly ritualized movements continue to strengthen the connection as life goes on. It's like going on dates for humans. It's like these rituals help keep the fire alive. Once hatched, babies are looked after by the parents for over 9 months. Capricorn Sun and Moon, responsibility through time, through gestation and achievement physically. They are one of the world's longest living birds. Once again, time, age, chronos, very Capricorn Sun and Moon. So they're the oldest birds. A healthy adult in the wild could live between 30 and 40 years, with those in captivity regularly living for over 50 years. And the oldest crane has lived for 70 years. That's as old as a person. Cranes are referred to as tanchozuru in Japanese and are said to live for 1,000 years and lovingly mate for life, thus making them a profound symbol of fidelity, loyalty, and longevity. The magic, which is why we're all here, the magic. Crane magic is all about loyalty and steadfastness. Very Capricorn Sun and Moon energy. In this world of instant gratification and short attention spans, the shadow, I guess you could say, of North Node and Gemini, perhaps the idea of loyalty is beginning to become a lost appeal. The graceful crane teaches us that remaining steadfast to those who deserve it is a positive ideal and something to treasure. Thinking carefully about our promises and keeping our word means that we become people to be trusted by others and ourselves. So when you can trust yourself, right? When you've seen that you're capable of good and bad and you've got to be soft with yourself, that leads to a level of wisdom that hopefully leads to participating with life in a less stubborn and stingy way, a more open and kind way. Compassion for self and other. Doesn't mean, you give bear hugs to everybody. You might have, quote, enemies still and things you don't resonate with, but like knowing that it's all good really takes away the edge of the delusion of versus. It's like distinction, polarity exists, but it doesn't have to be warring. It can just exist as it is. The color symbology is the color red, dancing, feathers, weaving, status endangered mainly due to habitat destruction. So because we're not being wise, particularly about how we handle our environment, we're very stubborn people ecologically and saying, we're just going to spread and tear down that forest because we want a building. We're not getting in tune with nature in an intuitive way. And even our loyalty to the ecology and the world that we grew through, the petri dish of reality for humans is 3D evolutionary reality, like material carbon-based reality. It might be spiritual in the mind of God at some level, hologram, who knows, but it's the simulator that we're gestating through. So we need to be loyal to ourselves and others. Ultimately, you can do that better by getting in tune emotionally and with all sides of yourself, and hopefully that leads to a level of wisdom that shatters stubbornness and ignorance ultimately, because ignorance of the will is just like, I refuse to see. Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump was very stubborn. Very Capricorn. I'm inheriting the history of my fathers through time, through war, through conquest, and then he had a moment with God, and he had to have in the water, the very moon card energy, and then he kind of let go of that whole trip, and he was a kinder, softer person. He let go of that stubbornness. He became more wise. Sorry if I just spoiled Forrest Gump for you a little. It's still a great movie. Check it out. So the artist we have is Paul Gauguin. So let's hear what I like. Just color. I mean, I'm an art history dropout, so I like showing this to people. Let's go ahead and just get cultured, shall we? Notorious carouser Paul Gauguin once roomed with Vincent van Gogh, North Node and Gemini, a pair of creatives and artists. But after a competitive game of who's more intolerable, very Sun and Moon Capricorn, the stubbornness, like who's more intolerable, who's going to be like more themselves, and they had a personality conflict, which is well represented in the movie that's on Netflix, but otherwise you can watch it, called At Eternity's Gate, with Willem Dafoe as Van Gogh, and Paul Gauguin, the guy from Dune, Paul Atreides' father from Dune is the guy who's playing that. I forget his name. He's in Star Wars too, as Poe Dameron. Anyway. But after a competitive game, very Sun and Moon in Aquarius, Sun and Moon in Capricorn, of who's more intolerable, who's more severe, the two broke up forever. Gauguin then threw caution and his wife and 5 children to the wind. In search of exoticism and a career makeover, he left France for Tahiti, where he settled with the native population, took young lovers for inspiration, and generously spread syphilis. In the South Seas, Gauguin, on his upgraded trademark style called post-impressionistic or primitivist style, he kind of founded that. He blended daring colors, exaggerated proportions, and indulged in steamy suggestions with hints of a romanticized outsider status. So, only an outsider sees inward is the advice we're getting from Gauguin. Only when you go into your subconscious arena and look at yourself as a totality of many archetypes playing off each other, much like the movie Inside Out, which is both Jungian as fuck and Buddhist as fuck. Inside Out, one of my favorite movies, makes me cry every time. We need to go into the internal cathedral of experience, not just what our culture tells us we are, or our language or our history, which are important things. It's both sides. You are more than the outside world. You have an internal reality, right? And only an outsider sees inward. Only when you have gone to your extreme alienated self are you going to find wisdom? Wisdom. You got to be loyal to yourself, and ultimately realizing everybody else is an extension of you, and hopefully not acting as stubborn with that externalized self. You don't have to. How much you fight others is how much you fight internally, basically. So only an outsider sees inward. Only when you go to the extremes are you going to see the truth of the cave. That's the advice we're getting from Gauguin. So last card, and I'm going to play my electric guitar today because I feel like it. We're getting, and you can quantumly entangle with this. I don't own it, but that's just the nature of the matrix we're in, where if you're aware of this material kind of reality, you can resonate with it, basically, either at a psychic level or more. I don't know how this works, but this magic is magic. Sunstone on a Sunday, but of course, what it is, sunstone emanates feel-good vibes of warmth and radiance. The stone's orange and red sparkling light effect, aka spangling, aka evanescence, is the result of copper inclusions reflecting light from within, which is very much the wisdom card, the moon. It's reflecting light from within, subconsciously. And it's not an obvious, it's showing on the outside, but it's not an obvious chemical composition. It's not just like chunks of copper or whatever. Who needs it? Fellas looking to operate on a higher plane. So instead of leaving your kids and running and spreading syphilis, maybe, operate at a more wise place. The vitamin D deprived, and it's ironic that the moon, it's like the people who are like gothic and staying in the shadows at night. It's like you need even the sun is being reflected on the moon. The light we get is from the sun, vitamin D. Vitamin D deprived, all solar-powered human beings who do not, in fact, harvest life force by turning up the brightness on their smartphones, which is all of us. So it's like technology will help us a little, but that's not, we're stubborn. We need to be like eating well and being human in the outdoors and participating with nature and each other well. And people who think that just sitting on your computer is the way to go, though it's a path and there's wisdom and foolishness on that path, you can, very dramatically decrease your chances of getting COVID by just getting a lot of sunlight. Facts. Hashtag facts. Where to put it? Anywhere you're looking for a boost in stamina. First thought, the gym. It's like, let's go to the workout. And I just started my New Year's resolutions working out. Maybe you have too. It says, sure, bro. When to use it? Whenever it's time to get busy. Very sun and moon in Capricorn. When it's time to do the work. Or when your disposition needs a little sunnying up. It says, take your shine back. And a way to do that right now is to be reflective of our emotional state, is to be reflective of our interior reality. That's where wisdom comes, right? Let your sun shine. Don't just be rigid and stiff and gnashing of teeth to get through life. That's a very stubborn way. There's a season for that, and many seasons probably in people's lives for that, but we have to be aware of that. Be loyal to yourselves and others, ultimately knowing that when you're an outsider and you're looking in, this is an outsider, the moon, and it's looking in with the sun's reflection, I guess you could say, more illumination occurs. So it says, take back your shine. Let's go ahead and play some electric guitar. I'm just going to jam to the vibe that I'm feeling based off of the astrology and the cards, which is kind of what I do anyway, but usually songs, it's a little different. This is going to be improvisational jazz rock or whatever the fuck I play. So let me get all set up. With the sun and moon in Capricorn, it's seriously a severe time. That's why the moon card came up. And with the clarifier, what was the clarifier? I forgot. Oh yeah, wisdom. With the clarifier being wisdom, it's like knowledge is not wisdom if you don't get the whole of it. I mean, both sides of the force are appropriate. Sith are just as valid as Jedi, and that's the whole point of the balancing of the force. It was prophesied that Anakin would balance the force, bring balance to the force. He did by causing the Sith to rise again because it was imbalanced. I forgot to plug this in, so hold on. It was imbalanced. So when Anakin became a Sith, even though that looks bad to our desires of how the world, everyone's like, oh, Jedi, not Sith. It's like you need 2 Sith for every Jedi, or whatever they were saying. There's kind of a math to it. There's a balancing to it. All right, I think I'm all set up. So let's jam. Sun and Moon in Capricorn with those cards. The Moon card and Wisdom. Sorry, it's winter, so my guitar gets out of tune really easily. You get the idea. It's really, with the moon card, it's all about exploring the possibilities of the depths of your unknown. And with wisdom, it's like you'll get gold there. Ultimately, with Sun and Moon and Capricorn, we're doing the work, folks, but we have to keep a lightness and a self-awareness about it, not just do the work, right? There's wisdom, no matter what. There's always lessons. Don't just be so stubborn that you keep going to the same lesson all the time. Just like Morpheus is like, you really think that's air you're breathing? We need to tap into our intuitions about the situation and find new paths, new wisdoms, not just stick to the same old. There's value in repeating things, just like that looper is showing, there's value. But there's also value in exploring, North Node and Gemini. So be loyal to your path, but also be willing to know that your path isn't going to be a straight line, right? Just like his life. He was a European who went to Tahiti, not a straight line. So Gauguin is saying only an outsider sees within. Only the moon, an outsider, is reflecting the sun, allowing us to go internally in a very exotic, exoteric way. Take back your shine. And I think that's what the moon is letting us do. It's saying with the phases, especially a new moon, it's like, what is your darkness? What are you taking too seriously? Where are you pushing so hard that you're being stubborn and maybe not finding the wisdom of the truth of the situation? That doesn't mean give up on everything and just abandon all hope and stuff. There's seasons for nihilism, I guess, and existential funks and freakouts. But keep pushing that rock, Capricorn, Sun and Moon, Venus in retrograde and Pluto. Keep pushing the rock, Sisyphus. It's not. There's wisdom in even Sisyphus. And Sisyphus can smile. He can take his shine back. That's a choice of perspective that self-reflection would ultimately lead to him if he did it right. So, holler for readings if you want. $33 for an hour of cards, $55 for 3 hours of astrology, and $111 for both. I said 55, it's 88. My bad, I'm just talking quick. $33 for cards, $88 for 3 hours of astrology, and $111 for both. That's the math. Okay. Check out the Team Rabbit Hole podcast. There's 260 episodes with all sorts of people talking about all sorts of things. Some of them temporally sensitive, some of them eternally nuggets of wisdom. So check that out. And like I said, holler for readings. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Share it out if you have leave a comment, whatever. I love interacting with people. That's Gemini life. And I hope on this Sunday you take your shine back through very maybe dark caverns. You will find the core of your being, the mantle of your light. Even in those dark places, light still happens. It just doesn't feel that way sometimes. So don't stubbornly avoid certain lessons just because of fear, laziness, stubbornness, all that. And don't take life so seriously, even though all the energy right now is saying, take it so seriously. Make sure you have a little compassion for yourself and others, or else, just as Paul said, you can have the truth, but without love, it's just a clanging of cymbals. It's just a bunch of noise. You could be spitting out facts, and if you don't have love in the equation, it doesn't fucking matter, ultimately. So enjoy your Sunday, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Bye.